YouTube before, so I don't know what I'm doing, but that's okay. I wanted to catch the sunset, like I do sometimes, which looks very bad right now, but it's pretty. And I wanted to chat about something that somebody asked me, and that I've gotten asked a couple of times. It's a pretty basic question. A little backstory. So I've been writing songs and doing music for basically my entire life. I was given a ukulele when I was born because I'm part Hawaiian, and I have been literally playing ever since I was born. But I never really started taking songwriting serious until maybe 5 years ago. So 5 years ago I started taking songwriting serious, and 1 or 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, I took Ryan Tedder's monthly course for the first time. Now, 2 years later, I've taken it 3 times now because it was so great. And that really catapulted me as a songwriter, and I feel like if I hadn't taken that course, even once, I feel like if I hadn't taken that course once, I would not be able to do what I'm doing now. What I'm doing now is I'm a full-time songwriter, music producer, and basically living the dream. So, how did that happen? That's what people have asked me, how did you become a freelance songwriter? It seems almost impossible, like, I thought it was impossible. But obviously it's not, because I'm doing it, I'm living proof that it is possible. So I wanted to share 3 tips for how to get started as a freelance songwriter, music producer, singer, vocal editor, whatever you want to do. The first tip, I hope I remember these tips because I didn't write them down. The first tip is to believe in yourself. Now this sounds super cliche. You gotta believe in yourself and everything will be peaches and cream and it's so easy, you just believe in yourself. That is not the case. That is not the only thing it takes, but I feel like that's the little seed for starting. So when you start, I hope I can share this video once I make it. I think I can upload it. I don't know. But once you start, believe in yourself and actually believe that there are other songwriters doing this. And there are songwriters who are doing this who don't know music theory, who don't have a big professional studio that they're working in, and who have only been taking songwriting serious for a few years. And that's me. So it's possible. So believe that. Believe in yourself. Believe that you don't need to have all this crap and plugins and analog gear and everything to do this. You just need to believe in yourself and do step number 2, which is make a profile on Upwork, make a profile on Fiverr, make a profile on Freelancer, which I've had no luck with, but I use Fiverr and Upwork. I got started on Upwork. Once I got some traction on Upwork, I moved to Fiverr, and I used the same process that I used on Upwork on Fiverr. And I've been able to gain success on both platforms, and I'm building up my income every single month and building up my prices every single month. So I'll eventually get to where I want to be. So how do you get started on those platforms? Well, for one, I'll tell you how I started. A few years ago, I've always wanted to make money online. A few years ago, I wanted to work from home. So I wanted to make money online, I wanted to work from home, and a few years ago, I put up my Fiverr profile with pretty high rates, maybe like $150 per song, or whatever, something like that. I put up my Fiverr profile, and I had a pretty high price on my stuff, and I had no orders, and I got nothing. So, fast forward to now, I really needed to make it work because of my living situation. I needed to work online. So, because of different reasons. And so, I YouTubed it. I YouTubed, how do you make money on Upwork, which is where I started. And I watched this girl who was like a virtual assistant or something, and she said that one of the tips she shared was start your rates really, 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 really low. Build up your credibility and your reviews, and then raise your rates as you go. So I saw exactly where I screwed up the first time. A few years ago when I made my profile, I didn't lower my rates. I just had a big ego and I said, you know what, I'm gonna have high rates. I don't want to work for cheap. Here I was a couple years later, really desperate, and I needed to make it work. So I said, okay, I will lower my rates. And I kid you not, when I started Fiverr this time, I had stuff going for $10. I was writing entire songs for $10. This was very difficult. It took a lot of time to write a song, and I was also producing songs for very cheap. But here I am raising my rates with good reviews. And I'm able to raise my rates now because I have the good reviews. So I don't think you can start without doing really cheap rates. And no, it doesn't mean you suck. And no, it doesn't mean you're a loser who has to work for really cheap, which is some of the stuff that would go through my mind. It just means that you are starting. You have no reputation. You have no reviews. You can't offer that. But what you can offer is a really, really cheap work that's great. And then people will review you. It just happens. They review you. I don't think I've asked for any reviews, but people do it. So, tip number 1, believe in yourself. Tip number 2, start with really, 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 really low rates. And tip number 3 is tip number 3. Okay, I almost forgot it. Tip number 3 is spend the time you have, any time you have. Spend the time you have sending proposals, sending job offers, sending whatever you can. You can't do that on Fiverr, but spend the time you have making sure this works. When I started Upwork, for the first week, I sent 40 proposals, which means I literally typed 40 messages to clients, potential clients, every single day for a week, or 5 days, something like that. So that's 40 proposals a day for 5 to 7 days. And in my mind, I had no profile, I had no credibility, but if I sent that many proposals, something would work. It just has to. You look at the odds, something has to work with that many proposals. So if you have the time, which I did, and you might, if you have that kind of time, do that. If you have more time, send more. You're more likely to get a job. If you have less time, send as many as you can. If you're working a full-time job, just send as many as you can. That's has to happen. You have to be sending those proposals, or else you just aren't humble enough to realize you have no credibility yet and people don't know about you. So you have to put in that work. When I started Fiverr, and this will be the last thing I say, when I started Fiverr, I had lots of time, and so I watched the YouTube video, how do you get started on Fiverr? I watched somebody, they said make 5 gigs, that's the maximum limit you're bound to make when you start. Make 5 gigs, all fairly similar, and just see which ones do the best. Delete the ones that aren't doing well, look at the ones that are doing well, and make new gigs that are similar to the ones that are doing well. You can look at your statistics on Fiverr and see which ones do well. So with Fiverr, constantly optimizing your gigs until you have all 5 gigs that are all performing well. With whatever spare time you have, your goal is to make those profiles as good as possible and send as many proposals as possible. With those 3 tips, that's pretty much all I did. Other than giving quality work, that's pretty much all I did to make it work. So granted, I had all the time in the world because I wasn't working. Maybe you're working, but maybe your journey will just happen slower. It took me less than a year to get where I am now. I'm hitting my goals that I've always dreamed of hitting online as a music producer. I'm hitting those goals, and it took me less than a year. So maybe for you, if you're working a full-time job, maybe it takes you 2 years. But even if it takes you 2 years, once those 2 years have passed, you will have what you want. So imagine it as college. You're in college, you're devoting these next few years to really giving everything. And it will work. If you give everything and work as hard as you possibly can and put in those hours, something great will happen. So, 3 tips for becoming a full-time music producer, songwriter, whatever, online. I hope that this helps somebody. If you have any questions, comment if I'm able to post this. I don't even know how lives work. Thanks for watching if this gets posted, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Happy writing.